I worked the night shift at a hotel, and a guest asked me for something very strange. I agreed out of curiosity, and now I regret it. I work the front desk at a small hotel. It's not luxury, but it's not a cheap place either. It's in that awkward category where people stay for a night and ask no questions. The night shift is mine. From 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. 8 hours where the world seems to shut down, and the hotel becomes something else. Quieter. More attentive. At first, I liked it. They paid me more for the shift, I didn't have to deal with demanding guests, and I could basically watch series while monitoring the cameras. Until that night. It was 2:17 a.m. when he walked in. I didn't see him come through the door. That was the first strange thing. Normally you hear the automatic sound, the little click of the door opening, but this time, nothing. I just looked up, and he was already there, standing in front of the counter. "Good evening," I said, trying to sound normal. The guy was hard to describe, not because he was strange per se, but because he didn't fit any pattern, neither young nor old, neither elegant nor sloppy, like someone had taken pieces from different people and assembled them without deciding on a style. "Room," he said. His voice was low, but not soft. It sounded like someone who didn't talk much, or wasn't used to it. "Sure, do you have a reservation?" He shook his head. I offered him a standard room. He paid in cash. Exact bills. No coins, no change. That was already odd, but not illegal. I asked for ID. He hesitated, just for a second, but I noticed. He pulled out a card, placed it on the counter, but didn't let go completely, as if he didn't want me to see it too clearly. Still, I took the information. Name, Daniel R. Nothing else. I gave him the key. Room 306. And as he was leaving, he did something that made me uncomfortable. He leaned slightly over the counter. Not too much. Just enough that I felt my space invaded. "If anyone asks for me," he said, "I'm not here." I stayed silent for a few seconds. "Sir, we don't give out guest information. That's normal. Hotel policy." But he smiled. Not a kind smile. It was like he already knew that. "All right," he replied. And he left. I watched him on the cameras walk down the hall. All normal. All, until it wasn't. At 3:03 a.m., the front desk phone rang. Room 306. I answered. "Front desk, good evening." Silence. But not that deadline silence. Something could be heard. Breathing. Slow. Very close to the phone. "Sir, do you need something?" Pause. And then he said, yes. His voice was the same, but different. Heavier, somehow. "I want you to come up." I felt a chill immediately. "Sir, if you need something, you can tell me and I'll send it up." Another pause. Longer. "No, and then it has to be you." I instinctively looked at the cameras. Third floor hallway. Empty. Door 306. Closed. "What do you need me to come up for?" What he said next is the reason I'm writing this. "I want you to watch something." I swallowed hard. "Watch what?" Silence. And then, in a lower voice, "My door." I froze completely. "I don't understand." From outside, he continued. "You just have to stay there and watch." "Sir, I can't leave the front desk. I'll pay you." That's where it all went wrong. Because he didn't say how much. He just said, "Enough." And then hung up. I stared at the phone as if it could ring again by itself. I looked at the cameras again. All normal. All quiet. Too quiet. I thought about ignoring it. Really. But then, the phone rang again. 306, I answered. "Yes, don't take too long," he said. And this time, there was something else. A sound. Like a soft knock. On the other side of his door. From inside. And then he added, "It's already started." My mouth went dry. What started? Silence. And then, almost in a whisper that which must not come out, he hung up. I was alone. With the hum of the air conditioning, the white lights, the cameras showing empty hallways, and a very clear feeling that if I didn't go up, I would regret it. But if I went, probably also. I grabbed the master keys. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe stupidity. Maybe something worse. Before leaving, I checked the third floor camera one last time. Door 306 was still closed. But, for a second, I thought I saw the handle move. Very slowly. As if someone, from inside, was trying to open it. Without succeeding, I turned off the screen, and went to the elevator. Not knowing that decision was about to ruin everything. The elevator feels slower at night. Not that it actually is, it's the feeling. Each floor it passes sounds louder. 1, 2, and when it reached 3, the ding made me jump a little. The hallway was empty. White light. Red carpet. That weird smell of cheap cleaner mixed with dampness. Total silence. Too total. I walked slowly toward room 306, and as I moved, something started to feel wrong. Not immediate fear. But like when you enter a place and your body already knows you shouldn't be there, but your mind hasn't caught up yet. I stopped in front of the door. 306, all normal. From the outside. Then I heard it. A knock. From inside. Not loud. Not aggressive. More like, rhythmic. Like someone, or something, was testing the door. Tap. Pause. Tap. Tap. My hands went cold. "Sir," I said, trying to sound firm. Silence. But the knocking continued. Slower now. As if responding to my voice. Tap. Tap. Then the phone rang in my pocket. I almost dropped it in shock. It was the front desk. No one should have been calling. I answered. "Hello, are you there?" His voice, but it wasn't coming from the room, it was coming from the phone. Yes, good, he said. Listen carefully. I looked at the door. The knocking continued. Don't open it. I frowned. Then what am I supposed to do here? Just watch. Watch what? The door is closed. Pause. And then he said something I still struggle to process. Not always. I felt a knot in my stomach. What do you mean? The knocking stopped. Suddenly, total silence. Now, he whispered, and at that very moment, the handle moved. Very slowly, barely turning, as if something inside was testing it, but didn't fully understand how it works. I froze. The door didn't open. It just trembled. See, he said on the phone. I didn't respond. I couldn't. You have to make sure it doesn't come out. What doesn't? Silence. Long, heavy. And then my brain didn't process that immediately. What do you mean, you? Not everything in that room is me. A chill ran up my spine. That doesn't make sense. It will, he replied. If the door opens completely, don't try to stop it. Then what do I do? Run. The air grew colder. Literally. I could feel it on my skin. And you? He laughed. But not like before. This was dry. Empty. I'm not going to be the problem. At that moment, something scratched the door from the inside. Like nails. Slow. Dragging. And then, a voice. From inside the room. But not through the phone. Through the door. Hello, my body froze. Because, it was my voice. Exactly my voice. Open, it said. I stepped back immediately. No, I whispered. The phone was still in my ear. Don't answer, said the guest. It's me, insisted the voice behind the door. It's okay. My breathing became irregular. It's not me, I said, more to convince myself than anything. Of course it is, that thing replied. Just, open a little. The handle moved again. This time with more force. It shouldn't be locked, it said. I didn't lock it. I looked at the number. 306, I knew the door had been locked from the outside. I saw it myself on the cameras. It's not real, I murmured. Open, it repeated. And then, something hit the door hard. Once. Dry. Violent. I stepped back again. The phone crackled a little, like interference. It's learning, said the guest. Learning what? To sound like you, to think like you. My heart was racing. I don't want to be here. I know, he said. But you already are. Another hit. Stronger. The door vibrated. Open, the voice growled. It no longer sounded exactly like me. It was a bad copy. As if something was losing patience. How long do I have to stay here? I asked desperately. Silence. And then, until it stops. Stops what? And then, from inside the room, I heard a second set of knocks. But not on the door. On the wall. As if there were more than one. As if something was moving inside. That, he said. The hallway light flickered. Once. Twice. And for a second, I swear I saw something under the door. A shadow. But it wasn't still. It moved, as if hesitant. As if it didn't know which way to go. Don't take your eyes off it, whispered the guest. I can't do this, I said. You already are. The handle turned sharply. Forcefully. The door opened, barely an inch. A thread of darkness. And something behind it. Something that shouldn't fit in a normal room. Open more, whispered that thing in my voice. My hand trembled. I don't know why, but, for a second, I thought about it. And right then, the guest shouted for the first time. Don't touch it. The sound was so loud I had to move the phone away. And at that very moment, the door slammed shut. As if something had been pushed back inside. Silence. Total. The air stopped feeling cold. The lights stabilized. And the hallway returned to a hallway. I breathed deeply. Once. Twice. Is it over? I asked. Pause. Long, too long. And then, no, I felt my stomach drop. That was just the first time. I looked at the door. Motionless. Perfectly closed. How many times does this happen? Silence. And then, depends on you. On me. Yes. Pause. And then he said something that made me understand this was just beginning, because it already saw you. The phone went dead. And at that moment, something inside the room tapped the door. Softly. Almost playfully. As if now, it knew exactly who was outside. I didn't move. Not because I was brave, but because I felt that if I took a step, something would react. Door 306 was in front of me, completely closed, as if nothing had happened. But I knew. Something inside already knew who I was. And that changed everything. The phone was still dead in my hand. No signal. No line. As if that call had never existed. I swallowed hard. And slowly, I approached the door again. Not too close. Just enough to listen. At first, nothing. Absolute silence. Then, breathing. But it wasn't coming from just one person. There were several. Layered. As if more than one thing were breathing at the same time, trying to synchronize. I stepped back. No, 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 no. I turned to leave. To forget everything. Go down. Give up. Whatever. But at that moment, the elevator dinged. It opened. And what I saw made no sense. It was him. The guest. The same man. Standing in the elevator. Watching me. Calm. As if nothing had happened. My brain went blank for a few seconds. How? I didn't finish the sentence. Because I had seen him enter that room myself. I had seen it on the cameras. He never came out. Never went down. And yet, he was there. In front of me. Don't panic, he said, stepping out of the elevator as if we were talking in the lobby. It speeds things up. I took several steps back. You are in the room. He shook his head. Part of me. That didn't help. At all. What's happening? He sighed. Like someone tired of explaining the impossible. I made a mistake, he said, and now I have to keep it contained. He pointed at door 306. Inside there. I looked at it. Then at him. What is that? Pause. Not long, but deliberate. It's what's left when something tries to copy you, and doesn't finish. I felt the air grow heavy again. Copy me. Everyone, he corrected. But you, now you're the most recent. A bang from inside the room. Strong, as if it had heard that. Why me? Because you responded. To what? He looked me straight in the eye. To curiosity. Silence. Yes, it made sense. And that made it worse. I don't understand, I said. What exactly does it do? He stepped a little closer to the door. Without touching it. Observe. Learn. Imitate. Another knock. Faster. More insistent. First it takes the voice, he continued. Then the gestures. Then, the decisions. That's impossible. It already spoke like you. I didn't know what to answer. Because he was right. And then what happens? Pause. And then he said, then it tries to come out. The hallway light flickered again. Stronger this time. But it can't, he added. Not completely. Why? He looked at me. And in his expression, there was something new. Something close to fear. Because I'm inside too. I felt that something didn't add up. So, you're there, and here, yes. That doesn't make sense. None of this does. Another knock. This time accompanied by something different. A wet sound. As if something was sliding against the door from inside. It's changing, he murmured. What does that mean? That copying it no longer satisfies it. I instinctively stepped back. So what does it want? The man didn't respond immediately. He just stared at the door. As if waiting for something. And then, from inside, a laugh. Low, broken, unsteady. And then, I don't want to leave anymore. Goosebumps covered me. What? The voice continued. It no longer sounded exactly like mine, nor like the guests. It was a mix. I want to stay. The man closed his eyes for a second. That's new, he whispered. New. Before, they always wanted to leave. The silence that followed was worse than any noise. What happens if it stays? He opened his eyes, and for the first time, he hesitated before answering. Then you don't leave. I felt my heart sink. What do you mean I don't leave? Because you're going to need space. A brutal knock shook the door. This time the wood creaked. Literally. And you fit perfectly. No, I said immediately. No, I'm leaving right now. I stepped toward the elevator, but the hallway light went out. Everything was in shadow. Only the emergency light, red, dim. The atmosphere changed instantly, as if the hotel had breathed and exhaled something old. Too late, he said. Why? And then, I felt something behind me. Not a sound. Not a shadow. A presence. I slowly turned. And what I saw should not exist in a hotel hallway. At the end of the corridor, someone was standing, but it wasn't a full person. It was as if someone had tried to draw a human and stopped halfway. Defined parts, blurred parts, and its face had no clear features. Yet, I knew it was looking at me. Don't make eye contact, whispered the guest. Too late, because that thing was already walking toward me, slowly, dragging one foot slightly, as if it didn't know how to use it properly. Did that come out of the room? I asked, my voice cracking. No, he replied. Pause. And then, that's what came out of another one. My mind simply couldn't process it. Another. The hallway felt longer all of a sudden. Darker. Fuller. You're not the first, he said. The thing stopped halfway down the hall, tilted its head, and then spoke. Can I come in? It wasn't looking at the door. It was looking at me. And in that moment, I realized something horrible. It wasn't trying to leave. It was trying to enter my space. The guest stepped forward. Don't answer, he said firmly. No matter what happens. The thing took another step. Closer. Just a little. I felt something inside me, wanting to respond. Automatic. Instinctive. Like when someone knocks and you say come in without thinking. I clenched my teeth. No. The thing froze. And then, it smiled. Or something like it. Because its face wasn't finished. I've learned. The light flickered. And for a second, it wasn't halfway down the hall anymore. It was closer. Much closer. Run, said the guest. But my legs didn't respond. Because at that moment, from room 306, the door began to slowly open again. And this time, no one was trying to stop it from inside. Door 306 opened a little more. That same inch, but this time it didn't stop. It didn't tremble. It didn't hesitate. It opened as if nothing was pushing from the other side. As if it was inviting me. I felt the air change. Not cold. Empty. As if the hallway had forgotten how to breathe. Don't look inside, said the guest, quickly. But the problem wasn't looking inside. The problem was that something inside was looking at me. I couldn't see it fully. Only fragments. A shape. Too big for the room. Too still to be alive. Too aware to be anything else. And then, it took a step. Not outward, but toward the door. As if positioning itself. Preparing. The other, the one in the hall, the incomplete one, also took a step. And then I realized something that froze me inside. They weren't the same, but they were connected. Like versions, attempts, copies of something not yet finished. Which one? I began to say. It doesn't matter, the guest cut me off. None should touch you. The thing in the hall was now only a few meters away. I could hear something inside it. Not breathing. It was like something inside was trying to sync with the world, like it still didn't fit. Can I stay? It said. Its voice was no longer broken. It was improving. That was worse. Much worse. I felt my throat tighten. There was a strange pressure in my chest, like my body wanted to answer for me. No, I managed to say, but it sounded weak, uncertain, and the thing tilted its head. Learning, evaluating. No, it repeated, but this time, in my tone. Perfect. The guest cursed under his breath. It's stabilizing too fast. What does that mean? That it doesn't need more attempts. A creak behind us. Door 306 opened a little more. Just enough for something dark to touch the frame from inside. It wasn't a hand, but it served the same purpose. And then, another voice came from the room. Let it in. It was me. Again. But not exactly. This version sounded calm, convincing, like when you're completely sure of something. It's fine. The guest looked at me immediately. That's the most dangerous one. Why? Because it won't scare you. The thing in the hall took another step. It was too close now. I could see its face better, or what it was trying to be. No defined eyes, but I knew where they were, because they were looking at me. Just a moment it raised something like a hand, malformed, but extended toward me. No, I said, firmer this time, and stepped back. One step, just one, and that was enough. Because the thing reacted, not with anger, but with interest. You move, the same, the guest whispered something. It's already taking you as its main reference. Is that bad? He didn't answer. No need, because at that moment, the thing in the hall copied exactly how I was standing. The same posture, the same shoulder tilt, the same neck tension, like a mirror, poorly built. And then it smiled, and that smile wasn't mine. Done, said the guest. Done what? It chose. I felt the world tilt slightly. What did it choose? Silence. 1 second. 2. Who to replace? The bang came from the room. Strong, violent. The door swung open halfway, and something inside moved. It didn't come out, but it got close enough for me to understand its size. Too big, too malformed, too interested. Now, said the guest. Run. And this time I did react. I turned toward the elevator. I ran, pressed the button desperately. Nothing. It won't work, he said behind me. We're no longer in a normal shift. What does that mean? That the hotel is participating too. Perfect. Great. Fantastic. My brain couldn't process anything else. So what do I do? Stairs. He pointed to the end of the hall. But when I looked, it wasn't like before. It looked farther. Much farther. That wasn't like that, I said. It is now. Behind us. I heard footsteps. Not 1, 2. I turned. The thing in the hall was no longer alone. Another form was slowly emerging from room 306. Bigger. More stable. More finished. Don't look, said the guest. But I did. And that was a mistake. Because for a second, that thing had my face. Perfect. Completely formed. And it smiled. Now, it took a step out of the room. The guest let out a dry laugh. Too late. What do we do? He looked at me, and for the first time since I met him, he had no immediate answer. Improvise. Both things started moving, one copying, the other leading, and I was in the middle, unaware of something crucial, which I would understand seconds later, because when I tried to run, a third voice spoke, right behind me, pressed to my ear. You don't need to run. I spun around, and there was no one, but I felt something perfectly aligned with me, like a shadow that had learned to stand inside me. I'm already here. I didn't run, not because I didn't want to, but because I was no longer sure who was making the decision. My body stayed still, but inside my head, something was moving, as if there was a second thought attached to mine. Waiting, watching, learning. Move, said the guest, but his voice sounded distant, as if it came from another floor. No, I replied, or at least, that's what I felt, because at that exact moment, my feet took a step forward, but I hadn't commanded it. My heart shot up. Did you see that? I said, desperate. I didn't. Yes, he cut me off. It started. Behind us, the two things advanced, but they weren't running anymore. They weren't in a hurry, and that was worse, because it meant they knew something that I didn't. I tried to move my arm, slowly, and it worked, but with a delay, as if there was a small gap between what I thought and what actually happened. It's not taking full control, said the guest. Just testing. Testing what? How much it can do without you noticing. I felt a knot in my chest. No, 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 no. And then I did something simple. I raised my right hand, and waited. 1 second, 2, and then, my left hand rose as well, but I hadn't commanded it. I froze. It's not me, I whispered. You still are, he replied, but you're not alone anymore. The hallway lights started flickering again, but this time it wasn't random. It was rhythmic, like a pulse, and with every flicker, the things behind us got closer, without walking, without making a sound, just closer. Don't look at them, said the guest. Why? Because if you acknowledge them, they stabilize. Acknowledge. If your mind accepts they're there, they stop being attempts. That was the most absurd thing I'd ever heard. And yet, it made sense. Too much sense. I closed my eyes for a second. I breathed. Okay, I can get out of this. No, he said. It's not about getting out anymore. I opened my eyes. Then, what is it about? Pause. Then, seeing which part of you stays. I felt something inside my head react to that, as if that sentence interested it. I'm not staying here, I said, but my voice sounded different, calmer, more certain, and that scared me more than anything else. The guest stared at me. That wasn't entirely yours. I know, no, he said. You don't know. You just think you do. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. And then, I took a step toward room 306. Unwilling. Unintentionally. No, I said, struggling. I'm not going there. But my body was. The guest moved quickly. He stood in front of me. Look at me. I did. Focus, he said. Tell me something only you would know. My mind went blank. Not from a lack of memories, but because I didn't know which were still only mine. I started. And in that same instant, another voice inside my head answered first. You've worked here for 8 months. I froze. That is true, of course it is, said the guest. Because it knows that too. My breathing became irregular. So, how do I know what's mine? He didn't answer immediately. He looked at the things behind us. Then back at me. Find something it won't want to share. Like what? Something that hurts you. Silence. That was different. Because I felt it. An immediate reaction. Something in my chest tensed. That, he said. There. I closed my eyes. And thought of something. Something personal. Something I wouldn't tell anyone. And I held it there. Firm. With force. And for a second, everything calmed. The noise. The pressure. The sense of duplication. Everything. Good, said the guest. That anchors you. I opened my eyes. And the things stopped. A few meters away. Watching. Waiting. Did it work? I asked. For now. And then, his expression changed. Slightly. Then, it learns from you. As if it had been waiting for that moment, one of the things smiled. And took a step. Found it, my stomach sank. No, because I understood. It had felt that. That memory. That weak point. And now, it had it too. What do I do now? I asked, almost voiceless. The guest took a deep breath. Now, you have to decide. Decide what? Silence. Then he said something that changed everything. Which of the two keeps that memory? What? Because they can't share it. I felt something inside me, pulling the opposite way, as if someone else was trying to claim that same point. No, it's mine, I said. Then defend it. The lights went out completely. Total darkness. And in the darkness, I heard footsteps. Very close. Too close. And a voice, exactly like mine, whispered, then take it from me. The darkness wasn't total. That was the first thing I understood. Because even though I couldn't see anything, I knew exactly where everything was. The hallway. The door. The guest. The things. And me. Or rather, us. Then take it from me, the voice repeated. It didn't come from a specific point. It came from, inside. As if someone had learned to think in parallel with me. I took a deep breath, trying to keep that memory firm. That point the guest called an anchor. It hurt, but that was good. Because it meant it was still mine. No, I said. And this time, there was no echo. No other version repeating it. Silence. 1 second. 2. And then, something changed. The pressure in my head increased. As if 2 invisible hands were trying to open space inside me. You can't keep it all, said the other voice. It's not fair. It's not yours. It's ours. My vision returned sharply. The hallway lights came back on. But they weren't the same. They were dimmer. Older. As if the hotel had aged years in seconds. And in front of me, there he was. Not a shadow. Not an incomplete form. It was me. Exactly me. Same clothes. Same posture. Same breathing. But his eyes weren't the same. They weren't afraid. They were certain. Let's make this easy, he said. And smiled. That calm smile. Convincing. Dangerous. You go. I stay. I shook my head. No, yes, he replied. Because you don't want this. He pointed to the hotel. The hallway. Room 306. But I do. Behind him, the other things were gone. Not because they had left. But because they were no longer needed. Everything they needed was in that copy. And the guest? I asked. I turned my head. And saw him. Standing by the wall. Watching. In silence. As if this was no longer his concern. You're not going to do anything? I asked. He shook his head slowly. This isn't about containment anymore, he said. It's about replacement. I felt the world narrow. Then help me. Pause. Then I already did. I didn't understand. Until he added, I told you how to anchor yourself. I looked at the copy. Still smiling. Waiting. Last chance, he said. Release the memory, and all this ends easily. I gritted my teeth. The memory hurt. But now, it also felt heavy. As if holding it was wearing me down. And then I understood. It wasn't just about having it. It was about being able to hold it. I can't, I murmured. The copy tilted its head. Exactly. and stepped toward me, but this time, I didn't retreat, because something inside me changed. Not force, not courage, clarity. I looked at the guest. You're not fighting it, I said. No, you're living with it. Pause. And then, I nodded. So that's what it wants. The copy smiled more. Exactly. I took a deep breath, and looked at the memory. That point, that anchor. It hurt, but also, it was defining me. You can't have it, I said. Then I take it, and it lunged at me. Not physically, not like a punch, but like a pressure, as if it tried to pass through me, enter, or take me out. And in that instant, I did the one thing I didn't expect. I released the memory. I didn't give it. I didn't share it. I let it go. Completely. The effect was immediate. The pressure disappeared. The copy stopped. Confused. What did you do? I breathed. For the first time without weight. There's nothing left to copy. Its expression changed. For the first time, it didn't know what to do. No, it said. It doesn't work like that. Yes, it does. I looked around. The hallway. The door. Everything began to fade. Not disappear, but lose importance. As if it no longer had anything to hold onto. The copy took a step back. You can't stay without that. I can. And I understood completely. What I was defending was what gave it shape. What allowed it to exist. Without that, there was no mold. No reference. No me to imitate. The copy began to distort. First subtly. Then obviously. Its features stopped matching. Its movements desynchronized. Wait, it said. We can find another. I shook my head. No, I looked at the guest. You did it this way, right? He didn't answer. But it wasn't necessary, because now I understood. He hadn't contained it. He had emptied it. That's why it was still here, and there. With nothing to fully copy. Nothing to lose. The copy took one last step toward me. Unstable. You can't leave like this, it said. You're nobody. I looked at it, and for the first time, I didn't feel fear. I prefer that. And then, everything collapsed. Not with noise. Not with violence. But like a thought turning off. The copy disappeared. Room 306 closed. The hallway returned to normal. White lights. Red carpet. Silence. The guest exhaled. It's over. I looked at my hands. They were mine. But, they didn't feel the same. What did I lose? I asked. Pause. Then, enough. I didn't answer. Because I already knew. I took the elevator down. This time, it worked. I returned to the front desk. Sat down. The clock read 2:19 a.m. 2 minutes after it all started. As if nothing had happened. But it had. Because when I tried to remember, that something I had used as an anchor, was gone. Empty. A blank space. And even though I didn't know what it was, I knew it was important. Very important. I checked the cameras. 3rd floor hallway. Empty. Room 306. Closed. Forever. My shift ended at 7 a.m. I quit that day. Never returned. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I do something without thinking. A gesture. A small decision. And for a second, it feels slightly out of sync. As if something is still learning. Not to replace me. Not completely. But, to see what remains. Of someone who decided to stay, without a part of themselves.